Hey y'all, it's Sharon and I'm back to share another policing experience with you guys. If you're new to the channel, I'm a 20-year veteran. I served in a police department in a southeastern city in the US. 11 of those years I was a detective and I was also in the military. I am sharing my policing experiences with you in order to help someone in a similar situation and provide a different perspective. If you find something interesting, hit like, comment, and also subscribe. I appreciate that. With that being said, the title, in policing, who is them? Who is them? You know, this us versus them mindset. It's embedded. It's almost, you're indoctrinated into it when you get into policing. But who is them? I always ask that question until I ended up being one of them. I spoke about that in my last video about the store when I went in out of uniform, as opposed to when I went in uniform, I was greeted differently. I was treated differently in uniform as opposed to out of uniform. And who is them coming into policing? I would venture to say everybody that gets into policing, we want to do good. We want to go after the bad guys and the criminals. Bad guys, criminals, them. But who is them when it comes to being out of uniform and you're on the other side of it as an officer? And it was interesting because I became them a couple of times, which was interesting. From being pulled over, and the officer really didn't have a reason to pull me over, besides what I think maybe, like I said in the last video, dark tint, maybe thought I was a guy driving a nice car, because there was no reason to pull me over. Couldn't give me one. I walked into the store, like I mentioned before, in uniform. Hey officer, what's going on? You know, take a soda on us, da da da. And then when I come back out of uniform, you don't even recognize me. And I called it mean mugging, because they kind of look inside eye like, okay, what's she doing? And they're watching me, no smile or nothing, until I mention their name and they're like, oh, hey, what's going on? It's interesting. I mentioned the other time where I was new in the city. I was lost. I approached two officers. One officer knew me, the other one didn't. I said, excuse me. One officer turned around and he looked at me and he kind of rolled his eyes and kept talking. The other officer recognized me and said, hey, hey, Walters, what's going on? And then the officer that looked at me, he was like, oh, you're one of us. Am I? Did I become them to that officer? And mind you, that was an African-American officer that did that. It just made me think, and it made me inspect myself and what I was doing as a police officer. Just those encounters, before policing, there was a couple of encounters with police that, honestly, my honest opinion, they either pulled me over because I had a nice car or because they just saw black skin. And that's my experience. I'm not there for other folks. I'm just talking about what I've experienced, and I'm trying to give you a different perspective in who's them. Because when I came into policing, and I'm going after the bad guy, I want to get the criminals. I want to get the bad people off the street. But I noticed we kept going to the poor areas. And so I was very instrumental in the FBI numbers that you see, how many black males are incarcerated and how many are going to prison for this, for that, especially in the, as they say, the drug game and the gun violence. Because I belonged to teams and we focused on those areas. We focused in those areas. Remember, I gave you another perspective where the sergeants, hey, Walters, you're not producing. People called it a quota, but we called it producing. And I have to say, as society, if I sit on a corner as a police officer and I don't move for 45 minutes, you can't measure the number of crimes that I might be deterring by sitting there. But I used to get complaints. Your officer's just sitting there 45 minutes, not doing anything. So then when I go out and I try to find these tickets and these bodies, you get critiqued about that, because guess where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to the areas where I can find the body the quickest, or the arrest the fastest, or a ticket the fastest. I'm going to go to the poor areas. And then when we saturate those poor areas, we're taking people out of there. And I was very instrumental in that. I have to admit it. To keep the sergeant off my back, guess where I'm going to go? Now, in the rich areas, it takes a little more time, a little more investigating, but I only have 8 hours in a day sometimes, or 12, depends on which shift you're working. And think about it. It's how do you fix it? Because society's going to come down on the police department. Hey, your people are just sitting there. Or hey, your people keep coming into the area, and all they're doing is picking up people for spitting on the sidewalk or drinking in public. It's sterilizing our community. How do you fix that? Like I said, I have a plan. I wrote it up. It's 3-pronged. It's going to take the police, the local government, and the community. We're going to have to do some revising of laws and getting rid of some old laws, outdated policies, practices. We're going to have to put accountability, make one of the pillars that policing stands on, accountability, and make that as a matter of fact, no, make it the foundation, because it just seems, from what I've experienced, that accountability, it's there in spirit, if you will, but it's not practiced as often, or it's practiced with certain situations and certain individuals. I just wanted to give you a different perspective, guys. If I sit on the corner for 45 minutes, hey, your cop is not doing anything. If I go out and look for bodies, oh, you're just targeting the poor folks. And then when I'm out of uniform, I'm in that same pond. And I don't know what kind of target or species, if you will. Think about it. I heard Bo from the 5th column talk about being the target, and he equated it to a hawk flying in the sky. And there's a rabbit in the field, there's a squirrel in the field. He's walking as a man, and there's a horse. And he said he looks back, and because he sees the hawk. He said the rabbits and the squirrels, everybody cleared out but the horse and him, because they didn't feel like they were targets. And that's Bo from the 5th column. I know I'm summarizing his story, but I just want to give you a different perspective with policing in America, and how certain people feel like targets or become targets unwillingly. That was me. I fell into the them category. This is something to think about, guys. I'll share more on another video, but I'm going to remind you of this. You don't necessarily have to go through a thing to learn from it, okay? Check out our online store. The links are in the description. I created a couple of notebooks. Links are in the description. All right, you guys, be safe. Talk to you later.